Hi, let's solve this strength in question. Keep in mind that this strength in question is not just about CR. It also tests how well you understand the concept of averages. So let's get to it. Political advertisement. Mayor Delmont's critics complain about the jobs that were lost in the city under Delmont's leadership. So we have this view of the critics. They complain about the jobs that were lost under his leadership. Reading further, yet the fact is that, so we have a contradiction which is evident because of the use of the word yet, and we have a fact given. Let's see what the fact is. Not only were more jobs created than were eliminated. So, we know that the critics were talking about the jobs that were lost, but now we get to see something else. So, let's understand this better. So, let's say this is the Delmont era, leadership of Delmont, and the critics said that if, let's say, there were 100 jobs earlier, this is before Delmont. If there were 100 jobs, the critics are complaining about, let's say, 20 jobs that were lost. But the fact that is given to us is that more new jobs were added than were eliminated. So if 20 jobs were lost, 30 jobs were added, right? So that makes the total 110, which means 110, which means that there was an overall increase in the number of jobs from 100 to 110. So that actually goes against the complaint made by the critics because the number of jobs has increased. Let's read further. But the average pay for these new jobs. So we are talking about the average pay for these 30 new jobs has been higher than the average pay for jobs citywide every year since Delmont took office. So, what is this comparison? Let's understand with the help of this example only. The average for these 30 jobs, the new jobs that have been created, is greater than the average of the other all the other jobs that are existing, which is 110, which is the jobs that existed earlier minus the jobs that were lost plus the jobs that were created. So this 30 average of these new jobs is greater than average of all these 110 jobs. All right. So let's read further now. So, there can be no question that throughout Delmont's tenure, the average paycheck in the city has been getting steadily bigger. So, what is the conclusion now? The conclusion is about the average here, this average, and the average here. So if we stick to these numbers, although the conclusion is about every year, so if we take these numbers for 1 year, then the conclusion is saying that the average for these 110 jobs is greater than the average for these 100 jobs. This is the conclusion that is given to us. Also, it is saying that it has been getting steadily bigger. So it's not that it is a one time comparison, it is getting steadily bigger. That is the conclusion. Now, before moving to solving this question and the getting to the answer choices, let's understand this comparison better. If you are comfortable with averages, it will be very easy for you to understand what are the factors that can impact these averages. Otherwise, you will just have to think a little more about these averages and then you will be able to solve this question very easily. So let's understand this information on a number line. So this is the information given to us, right? Let's draw a number line here. We know that average of these 30 is greater than the average of 110. So let's make 2 points here. Let's say this is the average of 110 and this is the average of the 30 new jobs that were added. Right? The comparison, the conclusion is about 110 and 100. Right? So the conclusion says that average of 100 lies here towards the left of average of 110. Then only the conclusion will be correct. Now we need to see whether that is true, whether the information that is given is sufficient to conclude that, or there are some situations in which that average, the average of 100, can actually lie here, right? That is what we need to understand. Now, in order to get there, again, this depends on your comfort level with averages. So you may have to spend a little more time if you are not very comfortable. Otherwise, you may very quickly understand that what are the relevant factors, and get to those factors immediately. If you are not comfortable, let me just break it down. So you know that this 100, which we are talking about here, is this 100, and this is made of the 80 existing jobs that continue, and plus the 20 jobs that were lost, right? These are the two numbers that make up these 100 jobs that were existing before Delmont's era. Now, after Delmont came to power, what happened? These 20 jobs were lost, 13 new were added. So these 110, these are dependent on the 80 jobs that existed from the previous duration. Then 80 jobs from there, plus 30 jobs that were newly added, right? These gave the new 110 jobs. Now, the average for this 110 would lie between the average of 80 and 30, right? So you can just think about in terms of averages, that the average will lie between these two values only. So if average of 30 is here and average of 110 is here, average of 80 will lie maybe somewhere here, right? It will be less than the average of 110. So we know that average of 80 lies here. Now, the average of 100 is dependent on the average of 80 and average of 20. So let's see, where should average of 20 lie to make sure that average of 100 lies here. That is, it is less than average of 110. So we know that average of 100 will lie between average of 80 and average of 20, right? So it'll be something like this: average of 80, average of 20, and average of 100 should lie here in between, right? And these can be swapped as well, right? Average of 20 can be here, average of 80 can be here. So that means that if we want average of 100 to lie towards the left of average of 110, average of 20 should lie towards the left of average of 30, right? So if basically average of 20 is less than the average of 30, then average of 100 will be less than average of 110. If it is the opposite case, that is average of 20 is greater than average of 30, in that case average of 100. So if average of 20 is here, and average of 80 is here, then average of 100 will lie to the left of 110. It will be greater than average of 110. So the important factor here, with all this discussion, is that average of 20 compared to average of 30 is relevant. What is the value there? If this average is more than average of 30, that is, if the average of jobs lost is more than the average of new jobs created, then it is possible that the paycheck might not be getting bigger, right? If it is less, then it is possible that the paycheck might be getting bigger. With this, now the question stem asks us to strengthen the argument, which means that we have to strengthen this conclusion that average of 110 is greater than average of 100, which means that we are looking for these situations in which the average of the new jobs is greater than average of jobs lost, and we are trying to eliminate the scenarios in which the average of jobs lost is greater than the average of new jobs created. So with this understanding, let's move to answer choice analysis. Let's come to choice A. Choice A: the average pay for jobs created in the city during the past 3 years. So, this choice is talking about average pay for some jobs. Let's very carefully understand which jobs are being discussed here. The average pay for which jobs is being discussed? Created in the city during the past 3 years. Now, does the passage talk about jobs that were created in the past 3 years? Do we know for how long Delmont has been the mayor in that city, or do we have any such idea that how many jobs were created in the last 3 years? No, right? Let's still read the answer to this choice further. Now, this average pay is said to be higher than the average pay for jobs created in the city earlier in Mayor Del Monte's tenure. So, what two kinds of jobs are being compared, or average pays are being compared? One is for the jobs created in, the first one is last 3 years, and the second one is created earlier in Del Monte's tenure. Do we have any idea about the average pay of these jobs? No. And that is why this choice is completely irrelevant. Now, if you selected this choice, so it clearly means that you did not read, did not understand what is being discussed in choice A. You somehow had in your mind that the average for new jobs should be higher, it will be a favorable situation. Maybe you understood the passage logic and you had this logic in mind, but you did not read the answer choice correctly, and that is why you mark this. So, this is the first scenario, that you did not read the answer choice correctly. You assume that it was talking about the correct factors. The second thing can be that you did not understand the passage only. You did not understand what factors are relevant. You did not understand what factors are relevant, and whether comparison between the average of jobs that were recently created, that is in the last 3 years, and that were earlier created in Mayor Del Monte's tenure, is that comparison relevant or not? You did not understand that, and that's why you selected this answer choice. Choice B. Average pay in the city was at a 10-year low when Mayor Del Monte took office. So, what is this choice saying? That if, let's say, Del Monte started in 2010, right? If, let's say, he started here, then the average which was here, average of these jobs, we, as per our example, there were 100 jobs. So, average of these 100 jobs was the lowest in this duration from year 2000 to 2010. Now, is that comparison relevant? Is that information relevant? Even if it was the lowest or even if it was the highest, it does not matter, because the relevant factor here is the comparison between average of the jobs that were lost during this mayor's tenure and the average of the jobs, of the new jobs that were created. So, depending on the value of those two averages, the average of the existing jobs can be, it could have been, the paycheck might have gotten bigger, or it may have reduced. So that is why choice B, the information that has been presented in choice B, is irrelevant. If you selected this choice, it is very likely that you did not understand what information is relevant, did not understand what information is relevant. And why that happened? Because the passage logic was not clear to you. Now, it could be because you are not very comfortable with averages, or it could be because you did not read and understand the passage properly. That is what you need to figure out. Choice C. Some of the jobs created in the city during Mayor Del Monte's tenure have in the meantime been eliminated again. So this choice is saying that, as per our example, we have considered that 30 new jobs were created. And this choice says that some of these 30 jobs, and some can mean anywhere between 1 to 30. So, one to all of these jobs have been eliminated again. All right, let's understand what is the impact of this elimination. Let's consider the extreme cases. Let's say, or at least one extreme. Let's say all 30 were eliminated. All the new jobs that were created, they got eliminated. What does it mean? It means that now we only have the 80 jobs that were existing, right? Because 100 were existing, 20 were lost, 30 were added, and now these 30 have also been eliminated. So we are left with 80 jobs. So the conclusion now compares the average of these 80 jobs with the average of the 100 jobs that existed earlier. Now, can we clearly say that average of 80 will be greater than 100 or average of 80 will be less than 100? Do we have sufficient information to arrive at that relationship? No. So we cannot be clear that if all the new jobs have been eliminated, what will be the impact? All that we know is that the average pay for the new jobs that were created, that was higher. Now how this average for 80 compares with average of 100 is something that is not known to us, so we do not know the impact of this scenario. Then let's consider that all 30 were not eliminated. Let's say 5 were eliminated, or 10 were eliminated, or 15 were eliminated, right? So it means that maybe instead of 30, 25 new jobs effectively were created, or 20 jobs effectively were created, right? That would be the scenario. Now, will that change the logic? Here we have considered, in our example, we have considered a number 30. Even if that number is reduced to 25 or it is reduced to 20, the logic still remains the same. If the average of the jobs that were lost is greater than the average of the jobs that were created, whether it is 30, whether it is 25, whether it is 20, irrespective of that, if this average is greater, the average of the average of the existing 100 jobs that were there earlier, that would be greater than the existing scenario, and the conclusion will fail. If the reverse is true, the conclusion will be strengthened, it will be true. So irrespective of the number of jobs that were eliminated in this scenario, our logic remains the same. It again depends on the average of the jobs that were lost and the average of the jobs that were created. So choice C clearly does not have any impact, any clear impact on the conclusion, and that is why it is irrelevant. Now, if you selected this choice, it means that again the relevant factors were not clear to you. The relevant factors were not clear, which is because the passage logic was not clear, and most likely it is because you did not correctly understand what factors would affect these average values here. So it is more on your understanding of averages than your CR skills here exactly. And this is something that you need to evaluate on your own, that whether you did not read the things properly, the information properly, or whether it was because you are not comfortable with averages, or you did not create the correct correlations there, which led you to this misunderstanding. D. The average pay for jobs eliminated in the city during Mayor Delmont's tenure. So again, it is important to understand which exact terms we are talking about. So this is the average pay for jobs eliminated in the city. So we are talking about the average of the 20 jobs that were eliminated, has been roughly equal every year to the average pay for jobs citywide. So the average pay for jobs citywide, because we considered that, let's say this is the same values are for every year. So this is approximately equal to the average of the 110 jobs that existed in that year. Now, what does that mean? We know here, so here, this choice tells us that average of 20 lies somewhere here only, which means that average of 20 is less than average of 30. So this choice indicates that average of the jobs lost is less than the average of the jobs that were created, the new jobs that were created, which means that average of the 100 jobs that existed earlier would be less than the average of the jobs that were there in that year, which supports the conclusion, and that is why this choice is the correct answer choice. So choice D is the correct answer choice. If you rejected this choice, you need to evaluate your thought process. What was the reason you rejected this choice? What made you reject this choice? So it can again be your understanding of the passage or understanding of the choice, or you were not able to arrive at these logical relationships that are required to solve this question. Choice E: the average pay for jobs in the city is currently higher than it is for jobs in the suburbs surrounding the city. So, this choice gives a comparison between the average pay for jobs in the city and average pay for jobs in suburbs surrounding the city. This comparison is completely irrelevant, and that is why this choice is incorrect. If you mark this choice, it indicates that you did not understand the passage and the conclusion at all. It has nothing to do with your understanding of averages. You did not understand the passage only. So you need to work on understanding reading and understanding the passages properly and understanding the conclusion properly. Hope that is helpful. Good luck.